I'd been lying in a bed at San Francisco General for over 2 weeks, and my own daughter, Emily, along with her husband Daniel, had gone radio silent, busier than a presidential campaign team and apparently too swamped to even make a phone call, let alone show up in person. Ironically, it was my widowed daughter-in-law, Claire, who was at the hospital every single day, shuttling back and forth between home and my room. She changed my bandages, brought meals, double-checked the doctor's orders, and she never once forgot to have a cup of warm water ready, just the way I liked it. She didn't miss a beat. You know, hearts are made of flesh, not stone. I may be old and worn out, but kindness like that doesn't just fade into the background. It sticks. So that day I made a decision. I set up a trust for my one and only house, listing Claire and my sweet granddaughter Lily as the sole beneficiaries. Well, wouldn't you know it, word must have leaked somehow, because bright and early the next morning, the busy daughter of mine, Emily, barged into my hospital room like a storm about to break. She stood over my bed, eyes blazing, finger nearly jabbing into my nose. "Mom, this is insane. You always said you never played favorites, but now that my brother's gone, you're leaving the house to his wife? She's not even your blood." Oh, the irony. Funny how I never realized just how fragile my daughter's logic was, flimsier than my arthritic knees, and those have been failing for years. So in her mind, if I don't give the house to her, I'm playing favorites? I'm senile? Fine. If that makes me the crazy one, I'll wear that hat proudly. It's a hell of a lot better than being heartless. The evening sky hung low over the Bay Area like a soaked, threadbare quilt, damp, heavy, and gray. I was just about to reheat some leftover risotto from the night before when a sudden, stabbing pain shot through my lower right abdomen. It felt like a rusty screwdriver twisting straight into my gut. Deep, violent, unrelenting. The pain was blinding. It tore through me like something wild and ruthless thrashing around inside. Cold sweat soaked through my shirt in an instant. Beads of it rolled down my forehead as the kitchen around me blurred, like a window fogged up with steam. I gripped the cold marble counter, trying to steady myself. Even breathing had become a struggle. My husband passed years ago, and Brian, my only son, has been gone for a while now too. Even though my daughter-in-law Claire still lives together with me, but she is usually outside busy working also, same as today. This house usually feels quiet. Right now it felt hollow, like a frozen cavern, echoing only with the sound of my ragged breathing. I stumbled into the living room, hands shaking as I fumbled for my phone. My fingers were trembling so hard I couldn't even unlock the screen on the first few tries. Through the haze in my vision and the panic pounding in my chest, I told myself again and again, "Don't fall. Not now. You can't fall now." I clenched my teeth and dialed 911. The wail of the ambulance siren grew louder by the second, shrill and frantic, ripping through the stillness of the evening like a blade. By the time they loaded me onto the stretcher, the ceiling above seemed to spin, stark white, cold, slipping farther and farther away like the surface of some distant frozen lake. At the ER, the diagnosis came fast: acute appendicitis. I needed surgery immediately. "We'll need a family member's consent for the procedure," the doctor said through an N95 mask, his tone calm and clipped, not an ounce of emotion. "And someone to be here post-op." Family. The first name that surfaced in my mind was Emily, my daughter. My baby girl. The one I raised single-handedly, the one I held above all else. I knew deep down she was unlikely to come through. But when you're at the edge like that, scared, hurting, you still reach for blood. I was lying on a temporary bed, the air stung with the sharp scent of disinfectant, pain twisting in my abdomen like barbed wire. I pressed the one number I could dial blindfolded, my hands still trembling. They say mothers cling to the hope that children will care for them in old age. But the truth is, when you're really on the floor and reaching out for someone, who you call first says everything. The phone rang several times before she finally picked up. "Mom." Emily's voice had a flicker of concern, but mostly it was rushed, distracted. I could hear keyboard clacking and someone calling her name in the background. "What is it?" "I'm in the middle of a meeting. We've got a huge deadline today. I really can't step away." I swallowed the pain and tried to keep my voice steady. "Emily, I'm in the hospital. My stomach is bad. They said it's appendicitis. They need to operate. They need your signature." There was a pause. I could almost picture her glancing at her watch, annoyed, calculating. "Appendicitis? God, that's so sudden." "I really can't leave right now, Mom. My boss is breathing fire today. Can't Daniel go? Where is he? A new chill swept through me, one that had nothing to do with fever. My voice cracked. You don't know? He's in San Jose. Business trip. He won't be back till next week. Oh, right. I totally forgot. I'm all over the place today. Well, just have the doctors do what they need to do, use whatever meds are necessary. If anything's not covered, I'll wire the money. I swear I'll come by as soon as I can. Really. SAP. What did that even mean to her anymore? One meeting led into another still. Her as soon as possible was like Schrodinger's cat, only alive when she remembered me, which to be honest wasn't often. I didn't have the strength to argue. The cold I felt now went deeper than any physical pain. Okay, I said quietly and hung up. My eyes burned. The monitor beside my bed beeped steadily, impassively. It sounded like it was saying the thing I didn't want to admit out loud. You're on your own. Who else could I count on if not Emily and Daniel? Out of nowhere, Claire's face came to mind. After Brian passed, she stayed, just her and little Lily, under this aging roof with me. A single mother holding it all together without a single complaint. Life wasn't easy, not by a long shot, but she never once made it my problem. We weren't exactly close, at least not in the way people expect family to be. From the outside, we probably looked more like two roommates. Polite, separate, respectful of each other's space. Claire was quiet by nature, gentle, measured. She never wasted words, never made a fuss. Everything she did with quiet precision. But back in the year Brian died, I'd quietly taken a step most people didn't know about. It had dawned on me. If something ever went wrong in this house, if I ever really needed someone, Claire might be the only one I could rely on. So I signed a medical power of attorney, giving her the legal authority to make decisions on my behalf in an emergency. Because after all these years of living under the same roof, I'd come to see something clearly. Claire was the most capable, steady, and level-headed person I knew. Far more dependable than my daughter or son-in-law ever were. Still, my hand hovered above her name in my contacts, hesitating. She had her own job, her own child to care for. Was it really fair to burden her with this? But the doctors were still waiting. The surgery couldn't be delayed any longer. I had no choice. So I called. My chest tightened as I waited, unsure what to even say. But the line barely rang once before she picked up. Martha? Are you okay? You don't sound right. Her voice came through with a rush of concern, genuine, unmistakable. I froze for a beat. That reaction, it wasn't what I expected. I gave her the rundown, trying to stay calm, but I didn't even finish before she cut me off, her voice sharp with urgency. Martha, don't worry. I'm on my way. Text me the hospital name, department, address. Everything. I'll get Lily to Catherine's, then I'm coming straight to you. There was no hesitation. No sigh. No excuse. Just action. When I hung up, something inside me stirred. A strange ache. Part relief, part guilt, part warmth. It's not that I needed to lean on her. It's that I shouldn't have had to. This should have been Emily and Daniel's moment to step up. Funny how we always place our hope in the wrong people, until reality shows up to correct us. Less than 40 minutes later, the ER door swung open. Claire rushed in, breathless, forehead damp with sweat. She'd clearly run the whole way. The moment her eyes met mine, me pale and curled on the bed, her expression broke. Tears welled up. She hurried to my side, her voice trembling. Martha, how are you feeling? Are you still in pain? She bent down, took my freezing hand in both of hers. Her touch was warm, grounding. It was like something inside me let go all at once. The helplessness, the hurt, it almost spilled out in tears. Claire, you're here, I whispered, voice raw and dry. She didn't waste time with comforting platitudes. She turned immediately to the doctors, got the details, checked the forms, and signed the consent papers with swift, confident strokes. Her signature was firm, precise. No hesitation. Not one. She handled everything, coordinated with the nurses, confirmed my admission, paid the necessary fees. Efficient. Like she'd trained her whole life for this moment. And there I was, helpless, childlike, just trying to stay awake. Claire wasn't just helping me. She caught me. Like a net, gentle but strong, ready to catch what was about to fall apart. Right before they wheeled me into surgery, she bent close and whispered into my ear, her hand still wrapped around mine. Don't be scared, Martha. I'll be right here. You're going to be okay. As the anesthesia crept through my veins, blurring the edges of the room, I held on to the last image I could. Her tearful eyes, steady and warm, lit from within with the kind of strength I had almost forgotten existed. In that cold, sterile hospital she was the only light left. And somehow that was enough. The surgery went well. When I came to, the sky outside was ink black. Only a small bedside lamp lit the room, casting a faint milky glow onto the white hospital walls, soft and still, like moonlight that had lost its way. Claire had fallen asleep at my bedside, her head resting on folded arms. She was still wearing the same light jacket from earlier, her hair tousled, her face pale and drawn with exhaustion. It was clear she hadn't slept a wink all day. Outside the window, San Francisco shimmered in the distance. A spill of color and light, like someone had tipped over a painter's palette. The city lights danced lazily across the glass. Inside the room, everything was hushed. The only sounds were the steady beep of the heart monitor and Claire's gentle breathing, slow and even. I moved my fingers slightly. The soft rustle of the sheet stirred her awake. Her eyes flew open. She blinked hard, rubbing at the corners with the back of her hand, still caught between sleep and worry. As soon as she saw me awake, she leaned in, her voice hoarse but laced with unmistakable care. "You're awake. How do you feel? Does it still hurt? Should I call the nurse?" Her questions came in a rush, urgent but tender. I shook my head. My throat was bone dry. "Water." She stood up immediately, poured a little warm water from a thermos, then dipped a cotton swab and gently touched it to my lips. "The doctor said you're not allowed to drink just yet, but I'll help you moisten your throat," she explained softly, moving carefully as if afraid I might shatter. Looking at the deep shadows under her eyes, a strange ache swelled in my chest. "Claire, this is too much for you. You shouldn't have to carry all this." He smiled, shy but warm. "Don't say that. Brian's gone, but you're still family. You're Lily's grandma. Taking care of you, that's what family does." She paused. A flicker of sadness passed through her eyes, but it was quickly swallowed up by resolve. "The doctor said you'll be up and moving in a few more days. Just focus on getting better, okay?" She didn't mention Emily. Not a word. And I didn't ask. Some things don't need to be said. Speaking them aloud would only turn quiet truths into awkward noise. Just then the door creaked open. A small figure peeked in, Lily. The moment she spotted Claire, she whispered, "Mommy," then tiptoed to my bedside. Her big, dark eyes looked up at me with shy concern. "Grandma, does it still hurt?" she asked gently. Claire wrapped an arm around her, whispering, "Grandma just had surgery. Let's keep our voices low so she can rest." Lily nodded solemnly. From her tiny backpack, she pulled out a piece of candy wrapped in bright foil that sparkled under the lamp's glow. She placed it on the pillow beside me. "Here, Grandma. If you eat this, it won't hurt anymore." Her voice was clear and sweet, like a wind chime, brushing the softest part of my heart. I looked at the two of them, one holding strong, the other leaning in, and something stirred deep inside me, something I couldn't name. After Brian died, it had just been the two of them. Alone but never broken. Claire never remarried, never walked away. She bore the weight of it all, quietly and fiercely, never once looking for an escape. Me. As her mother-in-law, I'd done so little. Some money here and there, maybe. But real care? Real concern? I'd always held back. Somewhere in my mind I kept a distance. She wasn't my daughter, not by blood. We weren't really family. There was always that line, thin but firm. But now, when I was at my lowest, stripped of everything, pride, strength, independence, when I needed someone to simply stay, it wasn't the daughter I raised. It was Claire. The one I thought stood on the other side of the line. She's the one who stepped across it and never looked back. The following 2 weeks became a chapter in my life I'll never forget. Quiet, sobering, and strangely clarifying. Just as I'd expected, Emily and Daniel remained nowhere to be found. Too busy, too important, too in demand to be present. Emily came by twice. Only twice. The first time was the day after my surgery. She swept into the room with a basket of imported fruit, apples still wearing their shiny little barcode stickers. Not one had been peeled, let alone offered. They were more centerpiece than sustenance. She wore a tailored pencil dress, heels clicking confidently, makeup flawless, like she'd just stepped off the stage at a finance conference. Mom, how are you feeling? I really can't stay. I've got a Zoom call with a client in Europe this afternoon. Just wanted to check in quickly. She spoke while swiping through her phone, her eyes barely grazing mine, never staying longer than 3 seconds. I looked at her, my mouth twitching, unsure what I even wanted to say. In the end, I just exhaled. Go on, I murmured. Work comes first. She let out a visible breath, relief not guilt, and headed straight for the door. If anything comes up, just call me or have Claire reach out, okay? Her heels echoed down the hallway, sharp and hollow. The lingering trail of her perfume hung in the air long after the door closed, a reminder of her visit, more scent than substance. The second time she came was just before I was discharged. No fruit basket this time. She stepped in, said a quick, "You're looking much better," and then launched into a monologue. Her overloaded calendar, Daniel's endless business trips, how expensive those hospital bills had become, how insane the cost of living in California was. He went on. And underneath every complaint, the message was the same. She was tired. He had it rough too. I lay there listening, staring at the ceiling, and whatever small, stubborn hope I'd been clinging to finally gave out. Quietly, completely. As for Daniel, he only called me once. Day 3 of my hospital stay. "I'm really sorry, Martha. I'm up in Seattle right now. But I promise, I'll make it up to you once I'm back." He didn't. They were always busy. Busy climbing ladders, chasing bonuses, staying ahead. Busy becoming the kind of people who impress strangers at cocktail parties. Too busy to notice the people who'd quietly been waiting for them to look up. That whole time, as the sun filtered softly through my hospital blinds, painting dappled shadows on the sheets like brushstrokes on an old canvas, it became painfully, beautifully clear. The person holding up my world wasn't Emily. It sure as hell wasn't Daniel. It was Claire. The day I was discharged from the hospital, the nurse wheeled me out to the hospital entrance. The sunlight was so bright it made my eyes water, but all I could think about was one thing. I finally get to sleep in my own bed again. Claire was already there waiting, with Lily by her side. That little girl darted toward me like a squirrel, clinging to my legs and whispering, "Grandma, we're here to take you home." She held Claire's picnic basket in one hand and tugged at me with the other, her smile so sweet, it nearly brought tears to my eyes. Back at the house, Claire eased me onto the sofa, fluffed the pillows behind my back, reheated a bowl of porridge, and gently draped a soft blanket over my legs. "Don't let your knees get cold," she said, her voice light, almost instinctive, like a daughter tending to her own mother. I opened my mouth to thank her but couldn't quite get the words out. Instead, I gave a small nod. We'd moved long past the need for polite exchanges. She never did anything for recognition. Never asked for anything in return. Emily, on the other hand, didn't show up at all that day. She sent a 5-word text. "Is everything still going okay?" Not even a full sentence. I replied, "All good," and that was that. Radio silence. She never responded. I figured, as usual, she was probably too busy again. But the next day she surprised me. She arrived in full office attire, carrying no flowers, no fruit, just a manila folder and the smell of too much perfume. She sat down without so much as a pause and dove straight in, her tone brisker than a double-shot latte. "Mom, we need to talk about your finances. I really think it's time you draft a will and sort out the estate. We shouldn't wait until another health scare catches us off guard. You're still of sound mind right now. This is the best time to plan." She said it all without blinking, her tone that professional mix of calm authority and "this is for your own good." Before I could say a word, she was already flipping through color-coded charts, speaking like she was pitching a client. Only this time the client was her own mother. And for a moment I sat there just listening, hearing everything, and feeling nothing. The air in the room turned cold. Not from the temperature but from the quiet, clinical efficiency of it all. Just then Claire walked in from the kitchen carrying tea. She paused when she heard Emily's voice, about to turn and leave. "Claire, stay," I said. He stopped, surprised. I looked at Emily. My voice wasn't loud, but there was no uncertainty left in it. "I know you have ideas. You always do. You like planning things, for people, for outcomes. But this time, I'm not following your script." Emily raised an eyebrow, gave a dry smile. "By script? You think I'm overstepping?" I didn't answer that. I said simply, "I think I have the right to decide what happens to my home, my life, and what I leave behind." And I don't think someone who's been absent all along gets to walk in at the end and hand me a checklist. Her eyes darkened, like a glass of red wine knocked over but not yet spilled. Calm on the surface but something staining underneath. There we were, me on one side of an invisible wall, her on the other. We could see each other clearly but the words, they no longer passed through. "So this is about guilt?" she asked, her voice sharp. "You're saying I haven't done enough?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She stood, gathering her folder. "Fine. Message received. I hope you don't regret this." And with that she turned on her heel and walked out, each step of her heels striking the hardwood like a gavel. Judgment delivered. Verdict rendered. The silence she left behind was louder than anything she'd said. The door shut. A beat passed. Then Lily peeked around the hallway corner, wide-eyed. "Is she mad again?" she asked in a whisper. Claire gently scooped her up. "It's okay, sweetheart. Aunt Emily's just a little upset. She'll be better in a few days." That night I sat by my bed with my old notebook spread across my lap. Pages I'd flipped through a dozen times. And on the inside cover I wrote something I never thought I would. I used to believe that love always finds its way back. But life has a way of waking you up. The ink was still wet when I closed the notebook. But inside, for the first time in a long while, I felt something close to peace. The street I lived on was quiet. Neighborly in that way where no one got too close. But everyone noticed when someone ended up in the hospital or something big happened. People cared just enough to ask. About a week after I got home, Claire was pushing me in a wheelchair through the yard to get some sun. The light hit her shoulders, warm and gentle. I looked at her and realized she wasn't that polite, distant outsider anymore. That afternoon, our old neighbor Helen stopped by with a box of scones from the bakery. She wiped her hands on her jeans and grinned as she handed them over. "We've all been saying," she chuckled, "your daughter must be real busy lately. We hardly saw her at the hospital." I smiled but didn't answer. Just held my mug a little tighter, my fingertips cold against the ceramic. Helen went on. "But your daughter-in-law's been really sweet and caring, no? Just the other day she brought cold medicine to Mrs. Patel next door, with Lily too. Sweet girl. I saw her always care about you and thought to myself, well, she's earned her place in this house." I nodded again, but it felt like someone had stuffed cotton in my throat. That one sentence, "your daughter must be real busy," didn't sound cruel. But it lodged itself deep. After Helen left, I went inside and pulled out a stack of bills. Thought maybe Emily could help sort through them. I hesitated, then dialed her number. She picked up quickly, voice brisk. "Mom, I'm on my way to the airport. Flying to Houston this afternoon. Can we make this fast?" I hesitated. "I wanted you to know the neighbors have been talking about us lately." There was a pause. Then her voice turned sharp. "And you couldn't stand up for me? You know how busy I am. Why do you let their gossip get to you?" I opened my mouth but said nothing. She hung up a moment later and the air around me seemed to drop 10 degrees. That evening an unexpected accident happened. Lily went missing after class. She didn't come home from school. Claire got the call from the teacher and froze mid-sentence, her phone nearly slipping from her hand. She didn't waste a second, grabbed her coat and bolted shoeless out the door. I tried to stand but she stopped me. "Martha, please stay here. I'll find her, I promise." I stood at the door and watched her sprint down the driveway, her face pale and eyes wild with fear. My heart clenched so hard it felt like it might split in two. I picked up the phone and called Emily. "Emily, Lily didn't come home. She went missing on her way back from school. Claire's out looking." She went quiet for a few beats, then said flatly, "Aren't there cameras near the school? Just check the footage." "Mom, this isn't something you need to call me about." And then she hung up. Just like that. I stood there holding the phone long after the call ended, my hand refusing to let go. A small thing, she'd called it. That was her niece. Her brother's only child. But apparently not worth the inconvenience. That moment something inside me broke. Or maybe something finally cleared. I had never seen the truth more plainly. Claire came back just as the sky turned to dusk. She had Lily in her arms, clutching her tight like she'd just pulled her out of a burning building. She went the wrong way. Ended up in the opposite neighborhood from school. Claire's voice cracked, her face streaked with tears. I was so scared. I bent down, pulled Lily into a hug. "You're okay," I whispered. "You're okay. That's all that matters." That night Claire didn't leave my doorway. She sat there, silent, holding one of Lily's little hair clips in her fingers, eyes empty. "I didn't know what I'd do if I couldn't find her," she murmured. "I've never been so afraid in my life." I didn't say anything. I just went to my desk and unfolded the draft of the trust agreement I'd written and rewritten, torn and taped together too many times. I laid it out under the desk lamp. Quiet. Resolute. Emily isn't someone I can't rely on. She's someone who never intended to be relied on. But Claire? Claire never once made promises. She simply showed up. Again and again. And never once walked away. That night I couldn't sleep. After tucking Lily in, Claire tiptoed into the living room. She gently adjusted the blanket over me without asking if I was awake. "Call me if you need anything," she whispered, then quietly shut the door behind her. The lamp beside me cast a faint, golden glow. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my mind anything but still. It wasn't pain that kept me up, nor lingering tension. It was a deep, bone-aching loneliness. I got up, wrapped myself in a coat and wandered into the study, hoping an old magazine might distract me. Instead, in the corner I found a gray plastic box I hadn't opened in years. Inside were Brian's notebooks and a few of his old things. I'd never had the heart to go through them. As soon as my hand brushed against the pile, I felt it, an envelope. My name was written across the front in a handwriting I could never mistake. Brian's. "Mom, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it to grow old with you. But I'm not worried about you being alone, because I know Claire will be there. She doesn't say much, but she feels everything. She's soft-hearted, stronger than most, and she never complains. Not even when she should. After I'm gone, it'll be hard on her. Raising Lily on her own won't be easy. But she'll carry it. She always does. She's stubborn like me. I know Emily never liked me much. Said I was too passive, that I never fought for anything. But I just never saw the point of fighting in a family. I let her have her way not because she was right but because she always thought you loved me more. I didn't want to make that wound deeper. But I worry that as she gets older she'll only look out for herself. She's smart, driven, capable. But she doesn't know how to care. Not really. She doesn't know when to stop and look around. So if one day you need someone and she's not there, don't blame yourself. It's not because you didn't raise her right. It's because she forgot how to turn around. As for Claire, I don't think you ever truly got to know her. She once gave up a promotion to stay by my side when I got sick. Never told anyone. She'd come home, smile, and make soup like nothing happened. She's the kind of person who never makes a big deal, just quietly takes the weight from your hands when you're too tired to hold it. So if you ever decide to leave something for her, it's not favoritism. It's gratitude. And I really want to thank you for that. Love always, Brian. By the time I finished reading, the letter was soaked with tears. All those years I thought my son was passive, too gentle, too willing to step aside. But in truth he had seen everything more clearly than any of us. He didn't speak up, not because he didn't care but because he did. He saw Emily's entitlement. He saw Claire's sacrifices. And somehow even back then he had already seen the moment I found myself in now. I clutched the letter with trembling fingers, memories flashing like lightning. Claire at the hospital quietly offering me water. Claire sitting by my bed through the night, still in makeup, exhausted but present. Claire crying into Lily's hair after finding her lost. Claire never once mentioning what she'd given up, only doing, never demanding. And Emily. Emily with her eyes on her phone, giving me rehearsed concern. Emily calling me cruel for not giving her enough as she requited. Emily's impatient expression every time when she came to visit me reluctantly. Emily brushing off her niece's disappearance as nothing to bother her with. My heart, once folded neatly like that letter, had been slowly peeled open by everything life had laid bare. And I was done hesitating. The next morning I called my old friend Janet. Before she retired she'd been one of the best trust lawyers in the city. Sharp, ethical, and someone I trusted with the truth. "Janet," I said, "I'm ready to move forward with the trust." There was a beat of silence on the other end. Then she said, "You've finally made up your mind?" I nodded even though she couldn't see it. "I don't want to wait anymore. Life's too short. Some things, if you don't make them clear, you never get the chance." Later that day I met her at her cozy little office downtown. She walked me through the beneficiaries, the property deeds, the third-party oversight details. Everything I needed to know. I listened carefully, absorbing each word like a student preparing for the final exam of her life. When I signed, Claire didn't know. All she knew was that when I came home that evening, I was a little quieter than usual. My eyes maybe a little redder too. She handed me a cup of tea as she always did. I took it in both hands and said softly, "Thank you." She smiled, that same gentle, steady smile, and somehow I knew she understood everything, even without a single word being said. The trust had not even been finalized when the storm rolled in. I still don't know if someone at Janet's office let something slip, or if Emily caught wind of it through one of her contacts in the legal world. Either way, she found out. She showed up unannounced that afternoon, her expression stripped clean of pretense. Not a hello. Not a smile. Just this. "I heard you put the house into a trust, with Claire listed as the beneficiary?" I was sitting at the dining table stirring my coffee in slow, steady circles. Claire was in the kitchen packing Lily's lunch. Emily's voice cut sharp through the air, loud enough for Lily to pause and glance over her shoulder. "Who told you that?" I asked, my tone calm, measured. "That's not important." She slapped a stack of paperwork onto the table. "I'm here to let you know. If I believe you're making irrational decisions, I will initiate a mental competency evaluation." I didn't flinch. But Claire stepped out of the kitchen, her face noticeably pale. "Emily, that's out of line," she said quietly, but there was an edge in her voice I hadn't heard before. Emily gave a cold little smile, all teeth and no warmth. "I'm simply ensuring my mother makes the biggest decision of her life with a clear head, and not out of emotional manipulation." Before I could even respond, Claire walked to my side, gently slid the documents back across the table toward Emily and said, "If it gives you peace of mind, I'll remove myself. I never asked for this house. I never expected it." Her eyes were red, but she didn't cry. She wasn't weak. She simply refused to fight for something she didn't believe needed fighting over. In that moment I saw it all clearly. Claire's quiet stepping back wasn't surrender. It was respect. Emily's aggression wasn't about fairness. It was entitlement, her belief that everything should be hers by default. I stood up, one hand on the back of the chair, my voice steadier than it had ever been. "Emily," I said, "if you came here today to test whether I'm still of sound mind, let me put your concerns to rest. I am, and far more than you realize." She opened her mouth to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. "Claire is stepping back out of decency. Out of love for this family. But let me be perfectly clear. This house? I bought it with the savings of a lifetime. Who it goes to is my decision, not yours." I met her eyes, not blinking. "You say I'm being emotional? You're right. I am. But my emotions are rooted in who's truly been here for me. Who's shown care. You don't like it? Maybe that's because it's been a very long time since you left behind anything in this home that resembled affection." The room went silent, save for the faint hum of Lily's cartoon playing in the background. Emily stared at me for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was lower but still cutting. "So now I'm being compared to her?" I let out a slow sigh. "I'm not comparing," I said softly. "You're my daughter. That won't ever change. But love in a family, it isn't guaranteed by blood. It's built day by day. And you've been absent too long to expect something that was never earned." She said nothing. Just gathered her papers, eyes hard, jaw tight. Then she turned and walked out without another word. When the door clicked shut behind her, Claire walked over quietly. "I'm sorry, Martha," she said. "I didn't mean to cause all that." I shook my head. "You didn't do anything wrong. I'm just sorry it took me this long to say what needed saying." That night I sat in the living room, the soft sound of Lily practicing piano drifting in from down the hall. I reached for Brian's letter again, unfolding it slowly, carefully. I read every word. And I knew deep in my bones he'd been right all along. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by presence. By action. The day the trust agreement officially went into effect, I sat alone in the kitchen, a cup of cold coffee untouched by my hand. I hadn't told anyone, not even Claire. The papers had been signed 2 weeks earlier. The entire house, now placed in a living trust, was to be co-managed by me, Claire, and Emily. Lily's share was secured within the trust, safeguarded under my name until she came of age. I knew this decision wouldn't be easy. I knew not everyone would accept it. But it was clear-headed. And it was fair. Because I've always believed love isn't declared with words. It's proven in the moments when someone is at their weakest and you choose to stand beside them. Emily showed up again. Unannounced. Just like before. No greeting. No warmth. Just a folder in her hand and a chill in her eyes colder than the winter wind. "Do you even know what you're doing?" she snapped as soon as she crossed the threshold. Even Lily, coloring quietly at the table, stopped mid-doodle. I calmly closed the ledger I'd been reading and answered, "Yes. The papers are signed. It's a 3-party arrangement." Emily stepped closer, radiating tension. "So that's it? You just write me out? You're my mother, not hers." "You weren't written out," I replied. "You're still in it. Just not the only one anymore." She scoffed, lips tight. "She's not even your blood." Claire had just stepped out from the kitchen and heard that last part. She didn't speak. Just untied her apron, gently took Lily's hand and started to lead her away. "Claire," I called. "You don't have to leave." She hesitated, then quietly stayed, placing herself between us. Emily's eyes narrowed. "Of course she'll stay. She wants me to look like the villain." Claire finally spoke. Her voice was low but steady. "If you believe I've done something wrong, I'll withdraw my name today. I never asked for this. I never fought for it." Her eyes were rimmed red, but not from weakness. From resolve. "I stayed because I've always been here. You feel it's unfair, because you haven't." Her words weren't loud. But they landed like stone. Even I paused. Emily's face twitched. She flinched just barely. I stood up and faced her. "You think I'm playing favorites? Fine. Then let me admit something. I have favored you. For years. Since you were little. I gave you more attention because I thought you needed it more. Your brother and Claire, they never asked for anything. They never demanded. So I poured everything into you." I took a breath. "But over the years, I got sick and you said you were busy. I fell and you said you had meetings. I said I was hurting, and you said it wasn't convenient." Emily said nothing, her fingers pressing into the trust papers until they creased. Kept going. "And Claire? She never asked for a thing. She just showed up. Every time. Never late. Never missing." Emily finally spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "So now you're giving our home to a stranger?" I pushed the cold coffee aside. "You see, a stranger. But she's the one who treats me like family. You're my daughter, but you've become a visitor. Someone I need to schedule time with." The room fell into silence so deep we could hear the ticking of the wall clock, steady and damning. Then Claire broke it gently. "Martha, if this makes things harder for you, I truly don't mind stepping back. I never expected any of this." I turned to her, meeting her eyes fully for the first time, and said firmly, clearly, "No. You're not the one making this hard. I am, because I waited too long. I'm making this decision not because of blood, but because of responsibility. You've carried this family. Not my daughter. Not my son-in-law. You." Emily lowered her gaze as if something in her had finally cracked. She didn't yell this time. Didn't lash out. She stood still for a long while, then asked softly, "So this is what family means to you now?" I nodded. "I want everyone in this house to understand. Love isn't inherited. It's earned through presence and care." Emily said nothing more. She slowly gathered the documents, slipped them back into her bag and walked toward the door. At the threshold she paused. I just need some time." The door clicked shut behind her. I didn't follow. That night, Claire sat at the edge of the sofa, quietly sewing one of Lily's doll dresses. She didn't look up when she asked, "Do you think maybe those things you said today were too harsh?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "They were just right. If she's going to wake up, it has to hurt a little first." I looked out the window at the full, calm moon overhead. And for the first time in my life I felt light. Because sometimes the only way to move forward is to finally stop carrying the past. Some time had passed when Lily's birthday arrived, and the day couldn't have been more perfect. The sun was warm, the skies were clear, and the house was filled with the kind of light you can't manufacture. That morning, Lily was bouncing through the living room in her socks, eyes wide with anticipation. "Grandma," she asked, "can we have a rainbow cake this year?" I chuckled and nodded. "As long as your mom agrees, we can do rainbow, unicorn, whatever your heart desires." From the kitchen, Claire laughed. "Unicorn might be a stretch, but I'll make it as colorful as I can." The house buzzed with warmth. And yet, beneath the joy, there was still a faint emptiness, because we both knew Lily was quietly hoping Emily would come. A few days earlier, Claire had approached me gently. "Martha, do you think we should invite Emily?" I'd stayed silent for a long moment. Claire continued, "No matter what's happened between you two, Lily still wants her there." He was right. Children don't keep score. They remember who helped blow out their candles, who appears in the family portraits they draw with crayon. So I dialed Emily's number. She picked up faster than I expected, almost like she'd been waiting for it. I didn't dance around it. "Lily's birthday is Saturday afternoon. If you're free, come have some cake." There was a pause on the other end. Then her voice, quiet but certain. "I'll be there." The party was small. Just a few neighborhood kids, one or two of Claire's co-workers, and my old friend Helen from before retirement. Claire had decorated the place with cheerful banners and soft balloons. Lily wore a white tulle dress and a rainbow barrette in her hair. She spent half the morning practicing her wish speech. Emily arrived about 30 minutes after things started. She came in quietly, dressed simply in a beige sweater and jeans, carrying a gift bag that was clearly not a last-minute purchase. She lingered in the doorway, a little unsure. Am I late?" Claire stepped forward and took the gift, her tone kind, neutral. "Right on time." The moment Lily saw her, she lit up like the candles on her cake. "Aunt Emily, you came." She ran to her and wrapped both arms around her waist like a koala on a tree. Emily knelt down, smiling softly. "Happy birthday, little one." She held out the gift. "I heard you like puzzles. This one's a space adventure edition." Lily squealed with joy and bounced off to show her friends. Watching them, something caught in my throat. It wasn't pain, not quite. It was that strange tenderness that comes when something distant finally starts to inch closer again. Later, when we gathered around to sing happy birthday, Emily sat across from me. Our eyes met a few times. No words. As cake was served and the noise of conversation picked up, she came over, holding her plate. "So, the cake okay?" I smiled. "Better than that one you tried to bake when you were 10. She laughed, really laughed. "I put in half a cup of salt instead of sugar." "You still ate a bite." "Well," I said, "you were my daughter. Still are." We didn't say more than that. But somehow the air between us felt lighter than it had in years. As the afternoon wore down, Claire gathered everyone for a group photo in the backyard under the big oak tree. Lily stood in the center, arms stretched wide like she wanted to wrap the whole world in a hug. Emily stood to my right. Claire on my left. The shutter snapped and I realized in that moment, we were, in some quiet and unspoken way, a family again. Later that evening, as guests trickled out, Emily approached me at the door. "Mom," she said seriously, "I know I haven't gotten everything right. But, thank you for still letting me be part of this." I didn't say, "It's about time," or, "I was waiting for you to say that." I just placed my hand on hers and said, "What's past is past. What matters now is what you do going forward." She nodded, and this time I could tell she truly heard me. And just like that, something inside me exhaled. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was recognition, of effort, of change, of the kind of reaching that, even if late, still matters. And yes, it was enough. Spring came early that year. The roses in the yard had just begun to bud when Lily dashed outside like she'd found buried treasure. Every day after school, her routine never changed. She'd kneel by the garden bed, little watering can in hand, and call roll for each of the plants she'd named. "Lucy, Ballad, Daisy. And the tiniest one? That's Hope." I asked her why she named it Hope. She tilted her head thoughtfully. "'Cause it's the slowest one. But I think it'll grow the biggest, prettiest flower." I smiled and nodded, struck by the truth in her words. That little stem, so fragile, so far behind the others, looked exactly like our family. After all the arguments, silences, misunderstandings, and distance, somehow we were still growing toward the light. Retirement surprised me in ways I never expected. I started volunteering twice a week at the local church, helping sort donated food, filling out health intake forms for elderly neighbors who didn't have anyone else. Sitting behind that folding table with a clipboard in my lap, it hit me. Growing old wasn't about being cared for. It was about becoming the caretaker, even if all you could offer was a flicker of light. Claire had grown busier too. She and a few nurse friends launched an online caregiving platform they named Always There. She told me the name came from the idea of taking care of me back at that surgery, and the feeling she hoped to bring others. Calm, present, unshakable. When I helped her write the website's homepage, she grinned and said, "The first line should be something you said, love isn't inherited. It's earned through action." I didn't reply right away. I just watched her type it in, and for a moment something warm fluttered in my chest. "And Emily? He changed you?" Not in some grand cinematic redemption arc. No teary apologies under the rain. Just small, steady shifts, quiet roots pushing gently through soil. She started calling on weekends. Sometimes just to say she wasn't traveling and would love to take me to a museum exhibit. Sometimes it was a message saying, "Lily drew a picture for Aunt Emily." And once, when Claire hosted a fundraising livestream for her platform, I noticed a comment pop up in the chat. "Clapping for everything you all are doing." It was from Emily. But the moment that stayed with me happened on a Tuesday. We'd gone to visit an elderly man in a rural care facility. Someone Claire was helping get into a home care program. His legs no longer held him steady, and his speech came in short, broken bursts. Still, Claire adjusted his bed with a smile, chatting softly. When he spoke of his youth, his eyes lit up like windows catching the afternoon sun. Emily had come just to drop off some supplies. She stood near the door, phone in hand, clearly waiting for a work message. But then the man turned toward an old photo on his bedside table. In it, a young boy sat in the lap of a tired but smiling woman. "My mother," he said, "raised me alone. Worked 3 jobs. Skipped meals so I could have milk. She died before I could give her anything nice. I always thought I had more time." His voice cracked on the last word. The room fell still. I didn't turn to look at Emily, but I felt the silence shift. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her slowly lower her phone and quietly tuck it away. Then wordlessly she walked to the bedside and gently pulled the old man's blanket back over his shoulder. On the drive home, we passed endless fields, glowing gold in the late light. Emily sat in the passenger seat looking out the window. After a long silence she said quietly, "Mom, when I was little I never thought you were doing a lot for us, that you had made great sacrifice. I thought you were just Mom. Like some kind of machine that didn't get tired, didn't get sad. But you were tired, weren't you?" My hands gripped the steering wheel. I didn't answer, not out of hesitation but because I didn't need to. He finally saw it. He felt it. She didn't cry out loudly. She didn't say she was sorry. But I know she was. When we got home she sat at the table for a long time, quiet. Then out of nowhere she looked up and said, "Claire, thank you for taking care of her all these years." Claire looked surprised. But her response was gentle like always. "Don't thank me. We're a family now, and going forward we always will be." Emily glanced at me, didn't say anything else. Just gave the smallest of nods. And that was enough. Sunday afternoons look a little different now, and somehow they've become my favorite part of the week. Our backyard, once the quietest on the block, is now the liveliest little courtyard in the neighborhood. Claire's in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, orchestrating a roast chicken like a symphony. Emily's at the counter beside her, whisking salad dressing while half joking about how Lily's math worksheet ended up smudging the linen napkins. And Daniel, yes, that once elusive son-in-law, is out back with Lily, both of them covered in bubbles from a science experiment gone hilariously wrong. His laughter echoes louder than hers. I sit in my old wicker chair under the orange tree, a soft blanket across my legs and a steaming cup of lemon tea in hand. The leaves rustle gently in the breeze, casting playful shadows across the stone path. In the background, the clinking of utensils, Lily's giggles, and Claire calling out from the kitchen. "Emily, taste this. Tell me if it's too salty." Her voice doesn't carry distance anymore. It carries belonging. I close my eyes and breathe in the sunlight, letting it warm my face. And in that moment I ask myself, what could be better than this? I'm no longer the woman lying in a hospital bed, waiting for a phone that didn't ring. I no longer measure love in gestures that come too late or not at all. I don't wrestle with guilt over what to leave, who to favor, or whether blood alone makes a family. I am Martha Green, a woman who finally understands what it means to be loved. And, more importantly, how to choose love. Every step I took to get here was worth it. This life, my life, was not walked in vain.